So this video is one in a series of videos to introduce you to one of our newest panels, the Q series. And what we're going to do here is show you what you see when you power the panel on and walk you through some of the things on the home screen as well as some of the other buttons on the panel itself. So let's go ahead and take a look. Well, first, how do we actually power it on? Well, there's a power button right here. There's a section of buttons over here on this side of the panel. And the largest one is the power button. It has the power button symbol on it. So when you give that a press, it will take you to this screen, which is the panel's login screen. Now, one of the newest features is the addition of user profiles. So yes, we do have individual user profiles on this model. We're not going to talk about that in this video, but I just want to point out that that's what you will see when you power the panel on. Is the panel wants you to log in to your profile. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Put in my PIN, which is all zeros. One more, there we go. And now I'm at the panel's home screen. And if you're familiar with the predecessor to this guy, which is the RS Plus, then this will look very familiar to you because the layout is just about the same as the RS Plus. So starting over here on this side of the screen, we have what I refer to as the on-screen source selector, kind of like the on-screen remote control that allows you to get to your connected sources. So when you have sources plugged in, such as computers or document cameras, those sorts of things, this is where you can easily access those. The panel, when it sees that something is plugged into a port, it will actually light that button up in white, kind of like you see here in this example. And in fact, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the instructions on how to access a source. We try to be helpful that way. And so the first method, if you will, is to press the button once, and it will generate a live preview in this section right here. And if that's the source you want, simply touch the preview and it'll take you right to that source. The other method, which is number 2 here, is to simply press the source button twice, and that will bypass the live preview and take you to that source. So half the reason the home screen exists is in fact to get you to your connected source. Very handy. And if we move over to this half of the screen, we have buttons that allow us to get to places and features on the panel quickly. The 6-pack, as I like to call it, is the first series of buttons here. That first button right there is labeled OPS. If you are using an OPS, also known as the built-in PC, and you have that installed in your panel, that's a great way to access it. Right next door to that is the button for the panel's embedded web browser. And then the embedded whiteboard is right next door to that one. And then the second line here, we have the panel's embedded file viewer. And the apps button, which of course gives you the apps menu, so you can access the panel's embedded apps that way. And then finally, the screen sharing button that fires up Newline Cast. That's our wireless casting application. Now, one of the nice things about the 6-pack is that those buttons are actually customizable. So let's say, as an example, hey Tim, I'm not using an OPS. I use a laptop, and I have a laptop plugged in the panel. Is there a way that I could make that button go to my laptop? And the answer is yes. So if you touch and hold the button you want to change, it gives you a menu to do that. So if your laptop is plugged into HDMI 1, you can make that HDMI 1. Maybe you want to call that My Laptop. Go right ahead and name it whatever you want. So yes, you can absolutely modify these buttons to go somewhere else or do something else by running an embedded app on the panel. So I'm going to go ahead and choose, I've got an OPS in mind, or at least I usually do. So I'm going to go ahead and change it back to that and close that menu. So yeah, the 6-pack is customizable. Speaking of customizable, right below the 6-pack, we have these series of smaller buttons down here. This is the shortcut area. So you can have one-touch shortcuts by hitting the Add button to places and things on the panel. So another handy way to get to what you want very quickly. So that's really the home screen in a nutshell, is the on-screen source selector, the 6-pack, and the shortcut area. But wait, one more thing to show you, because you probably noticed that you've got these buttons on both sides of the screen. Give that a touch, and yes, it's the panel side toolbar. Same idea, is to get you to things and places on the panel quickly, no matter what's on the screen, because these are overlay menus. Therefore, whatever you have going on the screen itself, those menus will be available to you. So we have a button labeled PC. That's the one at the very top. And yes, that actually gets you to the OPS if you have one installed. Right below that is the house button. House means go back to the home screen. Below that, I got a button that looks like a pen coming down on a piece of paper or a form. That is get me the panel's whiteboard tools in screen annotation mode. And yes, in fact, we are using the same whiteboard application as we feature on the RS Plus. So if you're already familiar with that, good news, it's the same stuff. And we already have a series of videos that talk about features of the whiteboard. So you can go check those out whenever you want. And so if you have the auto screenshot feature on, then if you hit the button again, it will whoosh, take a screenshot of whatever you have on the screen. And then right below that is a button to, in fact, quickly get to that embedded whiteboard. So there you go. Head back to the home screen. And then in the second half here, right below the toolbar button, is a button that looks like a square, or a series of squares, I should say. Yep, that's the apps menu. So that's another way to get access to that. Right below that is a button that looks like a square that has an arrow going through it. That's known as the favorite source or favorite connection button. So you can configure a port on the panel. Say it's a port where you have a laptop plugged in or a document camera, whatever, and you can choose that as your favorite source. That's in the panel settings. And so when you do that, you can then quickly get to that source by pressing that button. Right below that button looks like two squares right in front of each other. It's like when you're on a phone or a tablet and you have running apps. That's what this does. It shows you all the running apps on the panel, and you can quickly close them by hitting that trash can button. You want to clear all of them, yes, and there you go. So that's a nice way to either select an app that you already have running or close them if you choose to do that. And then finally, there's a button that has an arrow that kind of goes whoosh like that. That is back me out of whatever I have to the last thing I had. So you can back out of an application, or if you're using an application that supports it, such as the whiteboard, you can back out of a tool to get to the last thing you had. So that's what that button does. And so that is the side toolbar in a nutshell, and we can collapse it very easily. We can move this up and down like so. Okay, so we can move it out of our way if we want to. So very handy to have. The last thing I'll show you, I alluded to this, but I'll go ahead and I'll talk you through them real quick. The rest of the hardware buttons down there in the same section as the power button, we've got a button that looks like it has a volume icon. Well, sure enough, that's volume. That's a touch slider. So you can touch your way through that, make it louder or softer. Right next door to that, a button that looks like it has a brightness symbol. Hey, same thing, but this time it's brightness instead of volume. So a quick way to adjust the brightness of the panel. There's a house button. House means go home. And then last but not least, a button that looks like three lines stacked on top of each other. That is the button for the panel's quick menu, which we're not going to talk about here. That'll be in another video, but that's the button that allows you to access this quick menu that gives you access to other tools and features. And so that's a quick look at what you see when you power on your Q series panel. So stay tuned for more videos to introduce you to the Q series.